All right, it looks like we're live. Good evening, afternoon, or morning to everyone. Billy is in the room, but he wasn't very comfortable on the sofa, so he's on the floor. He was a bit, yeah, he's just getting a little old. Nice to see everyone here. I'm early as usual. We're gonna look at Taiwan today a little bit. Why I think it's an important point to look at, especially with what's going on. And I recommend the Duran YouTube channel. They're good in terms of geopolitics, I would say. So we've got Alain Roy from Montreal. Bonjour, Alain. We've got Randomness, Pablo Pina, Ben Gray, Para Building, Blast from the Past, Brett Workman, Jillian B, Belly Dance Arabia. Really nice to see everyone here. The other thing about the live stream tonight, ask as many questions as you want. I did quite a few videos yesterday, actually. And the other thing about when I make videos, I try to answer as many questions as possible, but it's hard. So I think having the live stream is a good thing, so you can come and ask some more questions. Andrew Watson, hi, Mario and Billy. Andrew from Basingstoke. Nicholas Tracy from New Jersey. Beechwood, Moonraker from North Carolina. Cupid Stunt says, hi, Mario and Billy Bullion. Bruno Silva. John Van Meter, do you go to Roman ruins? Well, yeah, I mean, in the city of London, there's the old Roman wall. But yeah, I mean, I guess I've been to Pompeii and Rome a few times. Here in the UK, there are Roman ruins, of course, but I don't really, I haven't been for a while. And even in the city, like there's a place called the Barbican, which is like a modern 1950, 60 complex. And even there, they have Roman ruins, which is interesting. Billy is on the floor. He doesn't really want to stay on the sofa. Not very comfortable on the sofa today. Let me just, Billy, come here, boy. Come here. Come and see everyone. There we go. You come on up. Just say hello, Billy. There you go. There he is. Can go back down now. There you go, boy. Put me back where you were. Here. There you go. All right. There's Billy's appearance. We've got Quit Addiction from El Salvador. Mr. W, how do you feel about ISO 222 standard? I can't tell you. I'm not sure what that is. Excuse me for my ignorance there. Morgan Maristeri from Sweden. Pranit Premji from South Africa. Symbol 59. Yeah, I can read people's name. Thank you. I usually do that. If you don't like it, that's too bad. I acknowledge, the people that are here. And I am early, so we've got another 5 minutes until we're going to start talking about the topic of the live stream. I got my NDECB mug today. Yeah, Billy he was groomed a couple of weeks ago. I played golf for Vola. I did. Didn't play very well. But oh yeah, today for almost forgot to say it was our anniversary, wedding anniversary, 29 years, and we went out to a nice restaurant for lunch. So we had a nice lunch, my wife and I. Next year, I guess we'll be 30. So I've been married for more than half my life now. Joker Alpha, hi, Joker Alpha. Yeah, and the Bank of England as well. I made a video, I think late last night, because one of the viewers sent me a clip of Steve Bannon. He was speaking in Dallas on Friday night, and I was surprised he called for the Fed to be scrapped. And he's an advisor. Well, he was an advisor to President Trump. I don't know how involved he still is with President Trump. So I thought that was very significant. I know Ron Paul and people like that have been calling for ending the Fed, but it seems to be becoming more and more mainstream. Thank you, Sue D. Thomas Moran, golf wasn't very good today. Didn't play very well. It's one of those days. I mean, I didn't play badly, but I just didn't make any putts, really. Only one putt. I made a nice long putt for birdie on a par 3. That was about it. Jack W. Hi, Jack. And the Fed, yeah, and the Fed. So ISO 222 is an emerging global standard for sending payment instructions between local, regional, and international financial institutions that begins November. Oh, I see. I guess that's part of SWIFT maybe, or different. I saw that the Turks are working together with the Russians now to use the Russian payment system, and the West is not very happy with Turkey there. We can talk about that as well. Todd Howard, Billy is in the room. He has been on the screen already. He's not comfortable on the sofa at the moment, so he's on the floor. Angie Alston, could you and Rafi do a video discussing what will happen in commodity markets when the upcoming harvest can't cover the physical contract? What will happen on the financial side? Well, yeah, there's a drought here in Europe, even here in the UK. There's a good website, not website, a YouTube channel, is a farmer in Gloucestershire in the UK. It's called Harry's Farm. And I watched him last week, and he said it's getting worrying that we have no rain, and yeah, we could have a drought. I mean, you would have a big shortage, of course, if that were to happen, and agricultural prices will go through the roof. That's the first thing I can tell you. Kush says your golf game was affected by you streaming in the middle of the night. No, it wasn't. It wasn't really. I slept well. It was. I made that video at 11 last night, which isn't that late. Thank you, Thomas Moran. So here we are. It's 9 o'clock. So yeah, let's have a look at the title again. Taiwan conflict has potential to bring down world financial system. It might sound exaggerated, but if you watch the Duran, and even if you don't watch the Duran, I've been speaking about this when the crisis in Ukraine started, the war, whatever you want to call it, in February. I personally think there's a lot of provocation from the West. They're pushing Ukraine to join NATO. I mean, this conflict wouldn't have happened if they tried to negotiate, if they try to stick to the Minsk agreement, which they're supposed to follow. and but they didn't, of course. So it looks like the West wants to create conflict, and what they did to Russia in terms of sanctions and cutting their reserves off, hundreds of billions of dollars, all the sanctions, of course, and the SWIFT. Yeah, they did leave loopholes, but um, I mentioned that China could be next. And lo and behold, they're pushing this Taiwan thing now. And some people might say, oh, it's because of Pelosi. She's trying to cover up the insider trading. But even the Republicans were urging her to go to Taiwan. And yeah, unfortunately, I think it's a sign of a falling empire. And by that, I don't mean the American people. I mean the deep state, the dollar, all the debt, the inflation. I think is an intractable problem. The Federal Reserve cannot really quash inflation. They can't raise rates that much, so they're trying to find a way to. Yeah, and the Chinese economy isn't in great shape either. They've had a collapse of the real estate market. This is an important anniversary for the Communist Party. Xi Jinping is in trouble. So yeah, if things get worse, the reason why I said it could lead to world financial meltdown or collapse is that China is really important in the world economy, in finance. It's the biggest lender, together with Japan, of course, to the US government. And it would be very serious as well if something were to happen. There's sanctions, and can you imagine the US freezes China's reserves? And the other thing as well, Taiwan is so important in terms of the semiconductor industry. And nowadays, almost everything needs semiconductors. It would bring the economy to a halt. And the other thing I would say is that, yes, it might sound catastrophic, what I'm talking about. It might sound crazy, but don't you think the world has gone crazy in the last 2.5 years? Things that have happened since the beginning of 2020, we thought would never happen. So that's why I think it's possible. Are we supposed to fear this? I don't think so, because that's what they're trying to do, to scare us. And even if they do start a major war, yeah, unless you're going there to fight, I'm not that concerned. And the worst thing as well, how can I say, of this question of Taiwan is that it seems like Russia and China are getting together. I think Russia has said now that if something happens in Taiwan, they will be behind China. And I think there's a lot of other countries, the BRICS countries, the global South. So it could be something major. So I'm going to stop at that. That's the way I think Taiwan, why it's so important. And before I stop, let's just have a look, because sometimes we don't look at maps. And geography was one of my favorite subjects in school. I love geography. So if you look at this map here of Asia, you've got Taiwan here, you've got China here, and then you got Korea and Japan, and you got Russia up here, of course. If you go down, Russia is up there, Siberia, Vladivostok, and then you've got the Philippines. And the Americans, they have a presence here, of course, and here in South Korea, in Taiwan, and in the Philippines. So if China gets a hold of Taiwan, it's a huge, how can I say, geographical move. And I think it's a lot of it is to do with their One Belt, One Road, the Silk Road. It's also supposed to be a maritime road. Uh, if the Americans control this corridor here, it's much harder for China to do trade with the rest of Asia down here, through the Straits of Malacca. And so that's why I think Taiwan is so strategic, not just because of the semiconductors, but also geographically. So I'll stop at that. Let me take that off. So I see there was a super chat here. Thank you, SK. Why does China continue to hold all those US Treasuries? Well, because they do a lot of business with the US. They export to the US. They also buy from the US, and also to deal with other countries. It's a petrodollar system. That's why they hold a lot of them. And I think they're trying to sell a lot of them. Their holdings have come off. But what happens if you try to unwind it very quickly, prices will start going down of those treasuries. So, and the other thing the Americans could do, if China threatens to sell all their treasuries, they could just freeze it. So the Chinese have to be very careful, I think. So I'll look at some of the questions now. Someone mentioned Tibet. Yeah, no more Tibet. I think the reason I saw something that Tibet is really important. A lot of the water that comes from the Himalayas to China. They need control of Tibet. That's the other thing about Tibet. It's all about the water. China's water comes from there and through Tibet. So they want to have control of Tibet. And I'm talking about this. I'm not like taking sides. I'm just talking about the realpolitik, sounding a little bit like a Henry Kissinger, I guess. But anyway, hi, Mario from Sacramento, 70 degrees clear here. That's nice. It's fairly cool here in the evening now. It was a hot day, but it's probably around 70 here as well. Joker Alpha, the US dollar has entrenched itself in a lot of markets. It's not likely the US dollar will collapse, even though it's backed by nothing. I don't know. I beg to differ because I think countries like Russia, China, and other emerging market countries, they're buying a lot of gold reserves, and they're preparing to, they're doing deals now. Even Turkey, I spoke about earlier, they're trying to cooperate more. And I'll show you the story about Turkey. The West is not happy about it. Let's see. So I don't think the dollar, I wouldn't really bet too much on the dollar. You see alarm mounts in Western capitals over Turkey's deepening ties with Russia. So, and they talk here that they want to cooperate more in trade. They want to allow, join the Russian payment system. Here we go. Speaking on his plane back from Russia, Erdogan, the president, told journalists that there were also very serious development on the use of Russia's Mir payment card system, which allows Russians in Turkey to pay by card at a time when Visa, MasterCard have suspended operations in the home country. Diplomatic relations between Turkey and the West are already strained. Washington hit Ankara with sanctions in 2020. So the US is hitting them with sanctions as well. And yeah, so no, that's the thing. When people realize they don't need to use the dollars, it looks like also Russia and Turkey want to be able to deal in lira and ruble instead of dollars. And we're seeing a lot of other countries do that, not just rubles and other currencies, but also the yuan. Thomas Moran, do you think much of the don't pay UK stuff? Don't know if energy comes. Yeah, this don't pay. I think it's really silly. It doesn't. If you don't pay for something, you shouldn't get it. Yeah, that's the way I see it. It's more of the entitlement mentality. Yeah, I know prices are going up for energy, but energy companies, yeah, they make big profits because they're big companies. If you look at their profits per share, it's not that big. I think it's trying to detract attention really from the culprits for the currency debasement, which is what we have, and that's the government, that's the Bank of England, that's the general public to some extent, because people unfortunately, not everyone, but they think they're entitled to a living, and they forget that government doesn't have any money. You have to borrow that money. You have to tax Peter to pay Paul. And I think this is just another symptom of that. I don't agree with it. Yeah, for people who don't know, there's a campaign here. People are trying to yeah, grow this movement that to stop paying their utility bills, gas and electricity. But you know, they're private companies, they'll cut you off. So good luck with that. It might sound harsh, but you know, that's the way things go. Mr. B says smash the like buttons, follow and subscribe. Lily Robin, will gold go up in time uh, for us to combat inflation? Of course it will. I mean, it has been. Well, the dollar's really been going down since 1971 when it was at $35 an ounce. You only needed $35. Now you need 17.50. Eventually, you need a lot more dollars, but I can't tell you when. And it's just that's why gold and silver are there for savings. It's not for speculation. Yes, you can trade the miners or the futures. So in the 70s, there was a period there between early 75 and late 77, so a couple of years or 2.5 years where gold didn't go anywhere, nor silver. And then all of a sudden they just picked up, and it was really hard to get on board. Brady Girding, how many passports do you have? I've got two, Brazilian and an Italian. Yeah, I was born in Brazil, so yeah, that's normal. I got a Brazilian passport, but my grandfather and my great grandfather were Italian. So my dad in the 80s decided to get an Italian passport. And as he got one, me and my sisters and my mom got one. So that's why I've got two. BP Silver Eagle premiums have gotten out of control, and I'm hearing that it's starting to creep into maples. Are you seeing similar developments in the UK? They were pretty high already, premiums here, but I have heard about the US that premiums are getting higher and higher. Rafi Faber did a good video for Arcadia Economics the other day. I think 100 million ounces of silver have been drained from COMEX since the silver squeeze movement in early 2021. So yeah, there's someone buying a lot of silver, and I think it will continue. Tony McGuire, do you think that the reason why governments have behaved the way they have is to gain control over the population and to bring the end of the currencies to a head quicker for reserve change? Probably a little bit, but I think a lot of these people don't even know what's happening. They think things are normal. They don't see the currencies collapsing. I think so. A little bit of that, but I also think they're just trying to keep going business as usual. But I think they will fail. Governments don't always want to have control. Governments always have to give us scare us with crises and stuff. Because if everything was great, we wouldn't need governments. And that's why I try to tell people, and I try to stick to what I preach, so to speak, that you have to try to be self-sufficient, self-reliant, live within your means, and not really be dependent on governments or anyone else. So, yeah. I hope that answers your question. For Luna, why people always asking for gold to go up? I'm happy if it it goes down. I'm 27 years old and near 2000 is very expensive for me. Yeah. Oh, I kind of agree with you, but yeah, that's actually somewhat something I wanted to talk about, and it's to do with Taiwan and this crisis that is brewing. They're trying to like push China, and it's like it's almost like you can feel we have another Ukraine coming up, but this time with Taiwan. Is that if that were to happen, this crisis escalates, I think it will be nearly impossible to get gold and silver. Don't ask me why. I just have a feeling about that. So, yeah, do your dollar cost averaging, I would say. Um, but be, I wouldn't be trying to trade, like waiting, oh, gold has to get to this level for me to buy. Just whenever you have extra fiat, I would just try to buy as much as possible. Marshall Topola. One second here. Go. Sorry, Marshall, I was just checking something. Mara, do you see a credit freeze forming? Can you explain how that would come about? Yeah, I think a credit freeze is dependent on how the banking sector is doing. And I think Kashkari of the Minneapolis Fed mentioned, he made a comment last week or the week before about banks being kind of in trouble. So yeah, that's how it happens. And I think it filters from the economy when people stop. They can't afford to make payments on their loans. It affects, it creates a daisy chain, and it hits the banks at the end. And that's when you have a credit crunch. That's what happened in 07, 08, 09. And it's possible, and it happens very quickly. Paul Weens from Southern Manitoba paid 32 Canadian dollars for, I guess that's announced silver. BlackRock acquired Coinbase. I saw that. Yeah, I'm not sure if they acquire them or they're working with them, because Coinbase is listed. Junk. I mean, I do get US junk silver in London, but I don't know what the situation is right now. I haven't tried to get any, but I got some a few weeks ago from yeah, and yeah, it was fair, some half dollars. Shannon Wright, thank you for your super chat. Thank you, Mario. Appreciate your videos. Have a cup on me. You're welcome. Thank you. Here's my I have a coffee. Yeah, brave spender. If Taiwan goes, the chips are down. Yeah, that's one of the problems. It would really just bring everything to a halt. Trying to see all, we got quite a few people, 1,000, I think, concurrently, which is good. JP Morgan's in the house. I'm joking. My concern with gold and silver is what happens if they push through dreaded CBDC. Well, CBDCs will be worse than what we have now. So I think it will make gold and silver even more valuable. It's a way out of the system. We might have to deal in the CBDC, just like we have to deal in fiat currency. So I don't see why it would probably be even more important that we hold on and keep stacking. And they might make it difficult for people to stack once you have a CBDC system. And that's why I think it doesn't hurt acquiring gold and silver. Now, I'm not pushing people to do it. I'm just giving you my opinion. It's up to you to decide, of course. Raymondo Rombout, what is best to buy, coins or bars? All right, let's look at silver. If you have a huge budget, if you're a multimillionaire, I think bars are good. But if you're starting out and you're buying a few $100s or $1,000, I would buy a combination, some coins, maybe some 10-ounce or 1-ounce bars. I prefer coins though, but I do have bars. So whatever, sorry. Yeah, buy it and see what you prefer if you haven't done it yet. And gold, the same thing applies for gold. If you have millions of dollars, for example, you're going to buy some kilo bars or some 1-ounce bars and coins as well. Yeah, Pablo Pina, yeah, they're partnering with Coinbase. They didn't buy them out. I agree. Owen Thomas, do you think junior gold miners would do well in a stagflation environment? Yeah, that's what happened in the 70s. Owen Thomas, you had this toggle back and forth of like up and down, disinflation, inflation, and yeah, the miners did very well in the 1970s, and actually gold miners, mining stocks did well a year or two after gold and silver topped in 1980. So the bull market in the miners could be even longer than the bull market in the bullion. Bars have lower premiums. That's right, Walter Lyons. But in some countries, like in the UK, coins like sovereigns and Britannias, they're legal tender. So there's no capital. You're not liable, excuse me, to capital gains tax. So it depends on the tax situation in the country. Echo, if you have £5,000 that you want to use to buy personal, how do you decide how much to allocate to physical silver, physical gold? I mean, it depends how much, what your what let's say what you have already. If you feel that you don't have enough silver, maybe buy even more than 50% and vice versa. It's up to you really to decide, but I think 50-50 is a good thing, because even though I think silver will outperform gold eventually, you don't have to buy more silver. It will do the job as well. BP, do you think 900,000 Eagle purchase has an element to expose the U.S. Mint's inability to deliver on demand, as they can only buy blanks? Are you talking about the the lady who bought silver from Andy Schechtman. Yeah, I mean, the U.S. Mint. It's weird because you'd think they would be buying a lot of gold and silver to mint because there's a lot of demand. But I think in their rules, they're not supposed to pay too much over spot, and that's why I think they sometimes get yeah, don't produce as many coins. Tim Goodson, what's your opinion on where Hong Kong fits into the Taiwan situation? Um, I mean, it's completely different, isn't it? Because Hong Kong used to be a British colony, but it was handed over back in 1997. Yes, they still have to follow some of their whatever they agreed upon in the treaty with the British and the Chinese, but I think it's slightly different um, because the Chinese are already in Hong Kong, but the communist Chinese, that is, in Taiwan, it's different. So there you go. And I think the Duran was saying that a lot of people in Taiwan are annoyed that they invited Nancy Pelosi because now the Chinese are doing all these military exercises and they could blockade Taiwan as well. So it's I don't think the Taiwanese, and I don't know much about Taiwan to be honest, but I don't think they're 100% behind having Nancy Pelosi come to visit. Randolph Schreiner, are you on board with Gregory Mannarino regarding the 10-year yield when the rate dramatically increases and becomes more volatile? This is the first indicator of the credit market breaking. Yeah, I mean, this week it's been a very volatile. Last week we saw the 10-year like move 20 basis points a day a few times, and back in March 2020, the 10-year yield, I think in a matter of days went from 0.3% to 1.3%. And that means there's no liquidity in what's supposed to be the most liquid and the most risk-free market in the world. So I agree with him on that. When you do see a lot of volatility in 10 years, it means that people, they're not trusting the 10-year, they're not trusting treasuries, and they're not trusting each other. They don't want to deal with other counterparties. And I used to work in the treasury market. I used to I started out doing treasuries, cash. And it was a very liquid market. We dealt for institutional investors, and you could buy 50, 100, 200 million worth of treasuries and not move the market. And I think that's probably changed. So yeah, I agree with them on that. Helen of Troy. Yeah, I didn't play very well today, so I didn't win the golf. BP, do you think the Eagle purchase has a strategic element to cause the U.S. Mints to force majeure? No, I don't think so. I think this lady, billionaire Texas lady, is just trying to protect her, her wealth by buying some silver and gold. Yes, she wants the public to know that because she wants the public, I think, to protect themselves. I don't think she's trying to create a squeeze. We know what happened, last time a Texas billionaire family tried to do that. But I think they can't stop a squeeze, though, when the general public rushes to silver, and I think they should do it through the physical market. And I think she's doing the right way, not going to COMEX, buying from the physical market. But it could create problems for COMEX and the paper market. Me Too Big, thank you for your super chat. Says thank you for spending time with us. Oh, you're welcome. And thank you for spending time with me too. Yeah, Dunebug, they do. I think they have like 25% of the soup of chips they make, and they also make advanced semiconductor chips, Taiwan. So they're very important. Dave Pye says Taiwan Semiconductor is building right now in Arizona, but still 2 years away from production. Belly Dance Raver says Jesus is Lord. Jay, there are certain tax advantages to American Silver Eagles other over bullying products. Yeah. Heart of Texas, does Taiwan have a secret weapon? They have the highest tech chips. Well, from what I've read about history, and some of this, some people would say is conspiracy, but when Chiang Kai-shek fled the mainland, China, and went to Formosa, which was the name for that island at the time, apparently he took a lot of gold with him. So that island has always been very wealthy and had close relationships with the US. So yeah, it's a very wealthy island. They've gone from really being a backwater to being really advanced, quite a wealthy island. The Chinese are very entrepreneurial. People forget that, and I think Taiwan is like an example of that. So I don't think that's the Chinese are everywhere in Asia. You go to places like Singapore, Indonesia, Malaysia, even Thailand. A lot of the business class, they're all Chinese. Tom Miller, will BlackRock troops guard the central bank's location? Well, the police already does that. And I'm sure they have a lot of private security. T Ty says, I used to work for Intel. They wanted to send me to Taiwan for a year to learn about semiconductor and come back here to Arizona to teach people. Kuya Joey Official, I get mixed answers on this question. Is it worth to buy silver and then trade it for gold? I've never done that. And the reason why is that I always try to trade out of fiat currency. So I guess, let's say if gold stayed at 1750, where we are around right now, and then silver went to $1,000 tomorrow, maybe, I would sell some silver and buy some gold. But I think you lose out a lot on the spreads, on the premiums. You sell your silver or sell your gold, you pay and then you pay a premium when you buy. You might as well just buy silver or buy gold separately. That's the way I see it. Echo, does it make sense to cut taxes at this time in the UK? Wouldn't that just stoke more price rises? There's a big debate about that right now. My view on this is that you can only cut taxes when you cut the size of government. Well, you could cut taxes. It's always good to cut taxes, but yeah, it will probably be inflationary because 50% of the economy is government spending. So you cut taxes, government won't have as much to spend, and that the economy will slow down. But then again, if it encourages the private sector, lower taxes, that's a good thing. They need to also cut regulations, but I would say that lower taxes are always better than uh, higher taxes. Chris Snow says if you buy stored allocated silver, then you avoid VAT. Here in the UK, yes, but I'm not too convinced about whether there is any silver when you buy it allocated. You got to be really careful with that, allocated or unallocated. That's if I think the best way to own silver is the physical, the real thing. And I remember the first time I bought silver, paid VAT, but the price was three pounds 50. And now I know it hasn't gone up as much as I thought it would, but it's still like 18, 17 pounds. So I don't think people should worry about the VAT, even though I have to say it does stop me sometimes from buying more silver. And gold there's no VAT on gold. Helena Troy Ounce, do you consider having Martin Armstrong on your channel? I'll tell you a little bit about Martin Armstrong and my view. I had a colleague at work back in 2007 or 8 when I was still in the city, and he forwarded me stuff from Martin Armstrong. And at the time, he was posting stuff from prison, and he was writing from prison, and his stuff was really interesting. And I still have it here in my shelf, stuff he wrote back then in prison. But I have to say, in the last few years, I don't really agree too much with what he says, but I could, and I haven't followed him that much, but his work on cycles is really interesting. And his view on things as well. I could consider it, but I have to look into him more. I haven't really followed him that much. Over here, Mario, imagine how much the average Thanksgiving turkey in the US will cost this year. I don't know. I have no clue. Maybe you can tell me. It's going to be a lot more than last year. Grumpstar, 200,000 apes, Wall Street silver 5-ounce raid. When is that going on, Grumpstar? Is it this weekend? Evola sunglasses. Would you go to the Durant to talk about economics? Someone has asked me that before, and we got in contact, but they never came back to me. Yeah, I would be prepared to talk to them. Mike G, who gets the premium from gold and silver? Thank you. Well, um, basically, it's like if you buy a car, a new car or a used car, The dealer, he buys it from the seller for $100, let's say, and he has to sell it to you for, I don't know, $102, so he can make $2, because that's how he stays in business. So the premium is made by the wholesaler, let's say Gold Investments or Andy Schechtman, Miles Franklin. They buy from the mint for, they buy silver for, let's say, 21 dollars from let's say the mint sells to the wholesaler for $21, and then they buy it from them. No, actually, Miles Franklin would be buying from the mint for $21. So he has to make a profit. So he puts the premium on it. And that's why there's a premium, because if they didn't make a premium, they wouldn't be in business. Wage Slave says precious metals are a fail in general. Well, it hasn't been a fail for me for the last 20 years. And the most important thing about precious metals, it takes you outside of the corrupt and fraudulent financial system that we're in. And by keeping your savings in that system, you're actually financing uh, people that are not, like, don't have your best interest at heart, I would say. Someone mentioned David Morgan. Yeah, I've been following David Morgan for probably ever since I started looking at gold and silver in 2002. He's good. Um, I'll think about that. Me too big. Is Gonzalo Lira really in Ukraine? Yeah, I think he married a Ukrainian, and he lives there. What do you think about Graham Phillips being sanctioned? Yeah, I saw something about that. I have watched Graham Phillips over the years. He's an interesting guy. Yeah, and I saw what Gonzalo Lira said about that, because I follow Gonzalo Lira once in a while. Um, yeah, it just goes to show that we don't really have a free speech in the West. We're just as bad as the Russians and the Chinese. General Stack, what do you think the odds of a hyperinflationary depression be? I think it's becoming more and more. The odds are favoring more and more hyperinflationary, I think, than deflationary. And the reason I say that is because that's all politicians and the central bankers know how to do. They just print and spend. They think that's the only way out. And we don't have a sound money system, so it's very easy for them to do it. They will keep abusing that until the currency becomes worthless. So I favor more hyper inflationary depression. Devin Murray, yeah, I have had Peter Schiff on probably about a year ago. I've had Ron Paul in. I've on the channel. I've had Jim Rickards. But one thing about my channel, I do like interviewing people, and I never used to in the beginning because I was a small channel. We had, but yeah, it's not like I'm not like some channels like Palisades, Gold Radio. They only do interviews. I like to just talk about things as well, but I will try to get newer people and different people. Mr. Bastian, what do you think on the USA 730 billion Inflation Reduction Act? Oh yeah, it just passed. I got a notice from the FT that it just went through. I'll show it to you. Well, I think it's a scam, really. Yeah, I actually want to thank you for that question, actually, because I wanted to talk about that. No, so it did go through, and this is just like another Green New Deal. That's what it is. It's anything but an Inflation Reduction Act. It's going to make things even worse. And I think the most nefarious thing about this act, excuse me, is that they're spending $80 billion of Americans' taxpayer money to hire 80,000 IRS agents to go after you, to take tax from you so they can build this green economy. So I think the current administration is doing a really good job, better than the Chinese or the Russians, of crushing the US economy, actually. So yeah, that's what I think about that act. Yeah, Matt Bittner, I agree. Opposite effect. It's just a farce. Even the guy from West Virginia, the senator there, he voted for it, and it's going to kill the coal industry, the coal mines in West Virginia. So he must have gotten paid quite well. What is the biggest black swan event? I don't know, because it's a black swan event. Maybe the new Madrid Fault. Uh, have you guys heard of the new Madrid fault line? We could have the new Madrid earthquake. That would be huge. I think that there was a big earthquake. New Madrid is along the Mississippi Valley, like Arkansas, Missouri. And there's a huge earthquake in 1811, 1812, and people could feel it in Boston. But back then, it wasn't as developed, the United States. But if you had an earthquake in the New Madrid fault line, it would it would be a huge black swan event. It would be worse than the earthquakes that you get in California. So that's my black swan. Daryl Calhoun says he's in the new Madrid fault line red zone. Yeah, it would cut off all the oil from the Gulf to the East Coast. Yeah, it would be catastrophic, an earthquake there. BP, do you think it will be stocks go up and precious metals go up fastest, or stocks collapse? I think the best answer for that is what Tavi Costa says. They will outperform in a relative basis. That's the way he sees it, and I agree with him. But I think it would be like the 70s, from the late 60s to early 1980. I think the Dow stayed between 750 and 1,000 for all those years in a band, didn't go anywhere. And gold went from 35 to 850. And the miners did well as well, of course, in the 70s. Yeah, Kuya Joey Fisher, that was the largest earthquake in history, the New Madrid one. I think it was in December. There was a big one around Christmas time, 1811, and then another one in January, 1812. Best place best safest place to hole up right now? Ask General Stack. Rural America or deep South America? I think Uruguay is a good place, but and I've considered things like that. but sometimes it's the old saying of better the devil you know. So, but I would say that countries like in South America or even Eastern Europe, here in Europe, they're very they're not that woke like we are in the West, and their governments aren't as efficient. So yeah, they could be good places to go, but at the same time, things don't work as well there. Day-to-day life, the that things that you take for granted. So you have to weigh that, I think. Mujahid, Mara, I have staked silver, but if it seems impossible to use it in common market, could we directly circulate as legal tender in future? I think, I think if we have a dollar collapse, hyperinflationary collapse, I don't see why silver shouldn't come back as money. And I think it's in people's DNA. You look at the word for money in many languages, it's silver, argent in French, sterling in the UK, pound sterling, that's the currency. The dollar, which I've got one here. A dollar, that's a taler, that's silver. Um, Plata in Spanish means money, it means silver, and so on. Lightning for thee. Hey, Mario, any chance that Steve Bannon news you posted last night goes full public this week? Well, I hope it does. I mean, I'm sure, well, it's in the Daily Mail, which is quite a big newspaper. I made a video about it. Let's keep sharing that video. I think it was fairly significant because he's even a former Goldman Sachs banker, isn't he? Got 7 minutes. General Stack, do you think the Russia, NATO, Ukraine war could spread to Turkey? Yeah, and to China, it could spread. And I spoke about how the West is getting concerned about Turkey and Russia uh, getting together. The president of Turkey met President Putin a few days ago in Russia, in Sochi, to cooperate more. So definitely, they're talking about maybe sanctioning Turkey. Zulu Brothers getting ready to print more funny money in Argentina already at 70% inflation. Randomness. Thanks, Mario, being interesting as usual. It says I'm out. Thank you, and have a good rest of the day. Persistence thinks Turkey is leaving NATO. It's possible. It looks like they're leaning a lot more towards Russia and China. Evola Sunglasses, did you ever live through high inflation? Yeah, I grew up in Brazil in the 70s and early 80s. So yeah, there was a lot of inflation there. And that's one of the reasons why I'm so interested in the topic of money and the monetary system, inflation, because when you grow up like that, a lot of people didn't understand what was going on. And I wanted to understand why currencies lose value. And it's very simple. It's because governments and central banks just create too much out of it, out of thin air, and they dilute it. But in a sound money system where the market controls and the people control the money, i.e. gold and silver, it's very difficult to inflate the system. Scott, thank you for your super chat. Have you heard Jim Rickers talking about a new Bill Biden has signed to bring in a new digital token that they can turn on and off. I think I might have heard of it. I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, I'll have to look into it, but I think I saw a tweet about that. They always put these things in page 1530, right? They hide it, they pass it with something that is completely different. That's the way they do it. Okay, so we've got 4 minutes to go. Let's go, Brandon, says the Great Closet. Cedric Vary, how many ounces of gold will buy for a 4-bedroom house after the reset? I've done videos about that ratio here in the UK, and in the last 50 or 60 years, the highest, the least ounceage that you needed was about 90 ounces of gold to buy the average house price in the UK. But I have a feeling you will need less because they've inflated the system so much that when we get like a total meltdown of the currency, you might be able to buy with a lot less. Joseph Schmidt, you think the US Fed will raise interest rates to grab the flight to safety of investors by a carry trade? And when that's finished, there will be no more ways to fuel the US dollar anymore. Well, I'm not sure the Fed is raising rates to attract to make the dollar stronger or to push people into safety, as you call it. I think they're raising rates because they're concerned that the currency is losing a lot of value because prices are rising so quickly. So, but of course, it does help when the Japanese are getting zero for their money, and you can get 2.5% or 3% for treasuries, and the yen is dropping. But recently, in the last couple of weeks, the dollar is actually fallen against the yen, so the yen is strengthened. So that could be a sign that the treasury market and the dollar could be topping. Richard Martin, can we do a special show about Shih Tzus, about Billy's breed? Well, there's a lot of channels out there about Shih Tzus, and I'm not sure. The thing is, I try to keep the topic the same because my channel is not about dogs. So I could do one, but focus on what we do. But we've had my family. I remember we got our first Shih Tzu one in Brazil in the, I think it was mid 70s. So we've had Shih Tzus for a long time, and my wife likes Shih Tzus too. And so yeah, they're really nice dogs. Robert Browning, how will they have enough silver to make money? Who do you mean by they? Well, silver is money. The way to get more silver is to mine for it. That's how you do it. Oh yeah, it's time. It's time to sign off. Yeah, thank you everyone for being here, and I wish you all a great rest of the weekend. And I'll talk to you tomorrow. And if you're new to the channel, I do a live stream like this every Sunday at 9, and I make a video every day virtually. Well, I do every day. So take care and thank you, everyone.